Kia ora, everybody. Welcome to Lincoln University. Welcome to the Bioeconomy Series. My name is Bioeconomy, and I'm your stand-in for today. Normally, this series is moderated by our provost, but he was unavailable, so you have to do it with me. I'm the Director of Partnerships for the university, and I'll try my best. Before we start going and some health and safety, we don't expect any fire drills, so if the alarm goes, it is the real deal. We'll take the doors on the back and we gather on grass in front. I see plenty of my colleagues of Lincoln University in the room, so they will take you out safely. If you need toilets, toilets are just out this door, slightly to the right hand side. You'll see the big red wall, and there are toilets out there. After the event is finished, we'll be roughly around 2 o'clock. We'll welcome you in the foyer for a late afternoon tea. This series is. Normally I do this out of my head, but I got some notes this time. Yeah. Partnership between the BSI headquartered here on campus as well, and Lincoln University, where we basically look at bringing together researchers, industry leaders, policymakers, communities, and basically to look within the bioeconomy space and to see if we can actually come up with some solutions or good ideas in moving us, being Aotearoa, New Zealand, land-based sector forward. We try to have discussions, so that's why the afternoon tea is important as well, because we really want you to start talking to each other and see if we can collaborate more, if we can do more things together. Today's session, we're going to focus on regenerative agriculture. And I think yesterday we had a session on regenerative agriculture as well, and there's a lot of talk about regenerative agriculture and what it actually means and who is doing it and what should you do. And I think it is all about us, this is probably the royal us, trying to become more sustainable and more resilient in the way we produce food for ourselves. Regenerative agriculture is often associated with soil and soil health and everything that has to do with it. But I think the two speakers that I'm going to introduce shortly will basically talk about a whole ecosystem that involves that. It also involves productivity and profitability, and it's because those things are important as well. We are getting more pressure, and not only from our own consumers, but also the customers that we supply. So there are a lot of questions when it comes to a more sustainable food production that science can actually play a role. So today's discussion will be to actually explore that science behind the regenerative agriculture, from soil-plant interactions to crop systems to ecosystem management and any innovations that support those things. So before we begin, the format of this afternoon will be that I am going to introduce two wonderful speakers, and they will both have about 15 minutes time to talk. And no, I will not be a timekeeper, but like so, if they do something really interesting, we'll let them go on. After those two times 15 minutes presentations, I have a couple of questions for them, and then I will open up questions to the floor to you guys. Noting also that we probably want to end at around 2 o'clock for the lunch, and hopefully a lot of conversations between all of us. I am really fortunate to be joined by Gwen and Pieter-Willem. And I've been really fortunate as well that I have been able to work with them as well in the past and also currently. First, Gwen is from the Bioscience Institute. She's a senior researcher in regenerative ecosystem management, with research focused. I didn't learn this by heart, by the way, so that's why I'm looking down. With research focused on soil health, biodiversity, regenerative land use systems that enhance ecosystem function while supporting productive landscapes. Her work brings together science, innovation, and practical application to develop approaches that strengthen resilience, restore ecological integrity, and support land managers' transition towards more sustainable practices. Well, I hope you guys are getting excited about that. Joining her is Pieter, and Pieter is from Lincoln University. And Pieter-Willem is a researcher in arable crop production, phenotyping and breeding, with a particular interest in below-ground crop development and plant interaction. His work explores how crop traits, including root architecture and plant competitiveness, can contribute to more sustainable production systems. His research into wheat interactions. So wheat is the stuff that you make bread from. Wheat is the stuff that we don't want to have in a field, right? So this is my Dutch accents that causes you confusion. Wheat interactions. And integrated wheat management highlights the role of the plant science and innovation in addressing the challenges such as herbicide-resistant soil health and resilient crop production. More recently, he has been developing research capability in speed breeding and phenotyping to support future solutions for New Zealand potato industry. Together, Gwen and Pieter will definitely create some synergies and complementary backgrounds on regenerative agriculture. So, without any further ado, please welcome me to welcome Gwen and Pieter to talk about this fascinating topic.
Thank you very much, Will. Can you hold the earring and it's not too wide, not too loud? Okay, thank you. All right. So, thank you, Will. It's a great privilege and honor to be here today. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. No wiwi oku tupuna, ko o tautahi tōku kaunga nai nei. So I am originally from France. That's where my ancestors come from. And so now I'm a Kiwi and I live in Christchurch. And for some of you who haven't seen me in a long time, and the ones that don't know me, and you've seen the little photo in the ad, and you wonder what happened, it was because of last week. And I'm not going to make any further comments on that one, watching the World Cup. So today I am going to talk to you about what we know about regenerative agriculture, specifically in New Zealand, and I'm going to refer to regenerative agriculture as RA a lot of the time in the talk because it's easier for me, so probably easier for you to understand. And I'm going to emphasize what it is that we are learning about now that we're paying attention to RA. So as Will said, RA is being talked about quite a lot. If you look at the number of papers that are published by the Scientific Academy, it's really increasing steadily. But what it is, what is it? What it is not, it's a bunch of practices. So we talk about regenerative practices, and we can maybe study what is their effect. But it is not how we define RA, and it's not how I define it. So I want to put the talk in the context of my own understanding because there isn't a universal definition. RA draws on a lot of practices and management approaches from multiple types of agriculture, including alternative agriculture like biological farming, now conservation, no-till, holistic management, but also conventional mainstream agriculture. So it's more defined by the outcomes it focuses on and the principles. And just to illustrate how important that is in the context of my understanding of RA, this is a figure extracted from a paper that we've got in the review at the moment. We've compared fields managed regeneratively and fields managed in a more conventional contemporary manner. And we are showing here that basically it's a gradient of practice usage. So you have different type of practices used, and it's not that some practices are used by the region farmers and the others are not. That's actually, all of them are used more or less by all of them, but to a different extent. And the same apply with fertilizer inputs. So the RA fields tend to have lower input, but they still had some input and vice versa. So it's a gradient. So gradient is not very, very easy to study with conventional experimental design in science. So the definition of RA, in my understanding and the understanding of a few of the people that have made me the honor to come in and listen to me today, is that RA is defined by mindset and attitude, and then these then emerge into instructions. So this is work done as part of the white paper that we published in 2021. So you can look into it if you want. It's fully available online. Since then, there's been a lot more work and published work trying to really define what is RA. And some of the advances in that I think are really important and are well framed and resonate with is that RA is adaptive in time and space. So something that is adaptive, constantly change within space and time is really hard to study for researchers like myself. It embraces complexity instead of trying to control it. It has a more than human ethics, so it cares about the well-being of everything, not just humans. And it returns agency to nature. So it's not there to extract and use nature. So in a certain way, it has quite a lot of relational similarity with Te Ao Māori. So what does RA seek to achieve or claim to achieve, depending on how we look at this, and what would we care? And the reason why we care is because it seeks to restore soil health, including increasing soil carbon and nutrient use efficiency. It seeks to increase ecosystem resilience, drought resilience, reduce pest and disease damage, potentially increase biodiversity. That's especially true for the Northern Hemisphere, because agro-ecosystems rely on partly on their native biodiversity. It's a problematic here in New Zealand. It seeks to reduce environmental impact of agriculture, greenhouse gas, nitrate, a loss to freshwater ecosystem. That's important for New Zealand. It seeks to deliver better quality products, and lead to healthier rural communities. And it also seeks and claims to maintain yield and profitability. And that is something that we're going to talk a little bit more about. So if we want to try and understand what has RA got to offer for New Zealand, we need to put it in the context of New Zealand, in the world context. So this is a figure from a newish paper, 2017, in a high impact journal, really good. And it's a work that some of our colleagues have done to understand the impact of human land use on soil carbon. And what you can see here is that all the colors that are warmish mean that the soil carbon has been lost due to human land use. And when they are cold, soil carbon has increased. So first thing, of course, as usual, New Zealand is going to drop off the edge of the world. And second, New Zealand is not all in blue. It's in yellow and a bit of orange. So there's been a little bit of soil carbon loss already, but it's not red. It's not red like a lot of some parts of Asia, Europe, and North America, where a lot of the studies about RA come from. To put it even more in perspective from the same paper, if you look at this, so what I want you to pay attention is on the x-axis is the year, so from zero, when there was no human land use, all the way to around, two millennium of human land use. If you look at those yellow dots, that's the cumulative amount of soil carbon loss with time. And so if we set ourselves in Europe, in North America, we are somewhere there or even further, because we've been farming and cultivating the land for a long time. But if we are in New Zealand, and assuming that Maori agriculture was much less invasive and destructive of soil structure, we are around here. So we are starting much closer to normal baseline. So any impact that RA might have is going to be small, because it's starting from high baseline. Therefore, the task of the scientist is to detect a very small change, and that comes with a lot of challenges. So that's the context. And the reason why I emphasize soil carbon stocks is because it is one of the metrics that are really well studied globally and has baseline, it has targets, so it's easier to understand and place a value against a benchmark. That's not the case for a lot of other things, like soil biology, for example, usually is not well understood to that extent. So what have we learned? So what I've done here is I've retrieved all of the results published either in peer-reviewed journal or online from New Zealand-based studies of regenerative agriculture that involve some research organizations. So in there, I am not talking about publication of results on websites such as Quorum Sense, for example. And amongst all of these projects, first thing to see, there's a majority of them here are focused on pastoral livestock-based agricultural system. And there's a couple of projects that are on cropping horticulture. And what you can see is that for all these different outcomes, the first thing is for the same kind of outcomes, there's mixed results depending on the study, the method they used, the timescale over which the study was conducted, the way the measurements were made. And in green, you have studies that have found that RA has got a positive impact. And then if you go all the way to the red, it has a negative impact. And the other thing that you can take from this picture is if you look at those outcomes that are mostly with an environmental lens, nitrogen use and losses to fresh water, potentially soil carbon, water, biological function, they all tend to be mixed, neutral, or positive. Now, if you look at crop production or profitability, it's a different picture, and there seem to be a somewhat negative impact of RA adoption. So there are caveats to this data. First of all, is the experimental approach is used. So here what I've plotted is the type of experimental approach we can use. You can do replicated trials, split paddock, whole farm comparison, depends who runs the experiment, researchers or farmers. All of these come with different strengths in terms of having the confidence to link a cause with an effect, i.e. the ability to say RA caused this effect that we're measuring, or the ability to actually reproduce what is an RA system, the fidelity of the RA system. Obviously, with your replicated trials, it's not very adaptive, neither in type nor space. So it doesn't represent RA very well, but it's the best way to have a confidence in cause and treatment effect. So across all of these different things that were represented in the study that I've just described, there's always a trade-off. And a newish paper, a couple of years, 4 years ago, was publishing in this really good journal, Nature Food, advocating the fact that if we want to move forward in food production, we also have to look at the way we do research. And they wrote a whole paper on a different type of experimental approach, which they call distributed on-farm network, which uses many co-selected sites, so co-production of knowledge with the end users, the farmers, and industry and the researchers, and then harnessing our advances in statistical analysis and Bayesian model, hierarchical model, et cetera, et cetera. This type of approach would be absolutely amazing if we could implement it in New Zealand. However, it relies really heavily on a very well-resourced extension network structure, which we don't yet have in New Zealand because it's been taken away in the 90s So methods also matter. So here there's a lot of wording, and this is for the scientific nerds. If you want to really scrutinize this is hot off the press results, which I have permission to show you today from my colleague at the BSI. But I want you to focus on the main message here. This is a comparison between a regenerative pole farm directly next by a conventionally managed pole farm run by a line farm. So it's a commercial organization, and they are doing their own regenerative study. They've been doing that for 5 years already. And what they've done is they've worked with my colleagues to try to quantify whether there's been an increase in soil carbon stock using soil carbon measurement, digging the soil up and trying to quantify how much carbon there is, or using a AD covariance approach on the right here. I've lost my pointer. And here, which basically quantify the net ecosystem carbon balance, and by default you can infer how much carbon might have been stored in the soil or lost from the soil. And what I want you to pay attention to is that one method tells you there is potentially a small increase in carbon in the soil, and the other one tells you there is a decrease. And for neither of these methods was the change big enough to be really confidently detected by the method, because the method is not sensitive enough. So we want to get data, and we want to understand what RegenAg is doing and RA is doing, but actually it's quite a methodical challenge for the scientific community. And then matrix. I wanted to just give a little snapshot of our current thinking, and I've discussed it with Peter as well. So a lot of the metrics that we're using to assess whether ecosystem works and our farm system works are, we need to measure and quantify things or qualify things. And we have, as I said before, benchmark targets. And all of these have been optimized and designed based on our, what we find out there, which is the mainstream agricultural systems. Usually they are less complex. They are much more simplified. And the question we're having is whether those metrics are also well adapted to describe a more complex system, such as RA system. And as an example, I want to talk to you about the regenerating full productivity system.